Imagine a universe constructed entirely out of dead bodies.
Oh, wow. That is a really intense way to start.
Right. I mean, it sounds like some kind of dark sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah, it really does.
But the thing is, if you lived in the ancient Near East, that was just, well, that was your baseline reality.
Exactly. It was just the news.
Yeah. You look up at the sky, you look down at the dirt, and what you are actually seeing is the butchered corpse of a water goddess named Tiamat.
Which is just so incredibly graphic.
It is. According to the Babylonian creation epic, which is called the Enuma Elish, the god Marduk slaughtered her in this massive cosmic civil war.
Right.
And he ripped her body in half, like literally like a dried fish.
Oh, gross.
And then he used one half of her to make the heavens and the other half to make the earth.
It is an incredibly violent, just really bloody way to view the origin of absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't just the Babylonians who thought this way.
Right. It was everywhere.
If you go over to ancient Greece and you read the poet Hesiod, the universe is explained through these chaotic, disturbing genealogies.
I mean, deeply disturbing.
You have sky gods marrying earth goddesses and then, eating their own children.
Which is terrifying.
Totally terrifying.
Yeah.
And they are throwing lightning bolts and manipulating the weather based on whatever deeply dysfunctional mood they happen to wake up in.
Which means if you are just a regular person, you're listening to this and imagining you're just trying to grow wheat or raise your kids.
Right.
You are absolutely terrified all the time.
I'm constantly on edge.
Because you are totally at the mercy of these unpredictable cosmic personalities. If a drought hits your farm, someone up there is angry with you.
Yes.
If a storm washes away your home, well, someone up there is demanding a sacrifice. You are living in a universe that is just governed by absolute whim.
And that profound anxiety, that fear, was the inescapable background noise of human existence for centuries.
It really was.
But then we hit this massive turning point. And in the stack of research and historical notes you sent over to us for this deep dive today, you really asked us to look into a specific moment where humanity tried to break out of that mythological terror.
Yeah, we wanted to dig into that.
You wanted us to explore how ancient people first tried to explain the universe. The stars, the weather, the origin of life.
Right.
But trying to explain it without using gods at all.
Right, because you are trying to synthesize how ancient views of science and reason actually intersect with our faith today.
Exactly.
And as we dug into the sources you provided, specifically looking at an ancient thinker named Anaximander.
Such a fascinating guy.
Oh, completely fascinating. It became so clear that this is not just some dusty history lesson about old science.
No, not at all.
It is actually a mirror. And it reflects exactly how modern secular culture thinks right now.
It really is a perfect mirror. By looking at humanity's very first attempt to find a purely natural, like a mathematical origin for life, we're going to see the incredible power of human logic. But more importantly, by measuring that ancient logic against the biblical worldview, we're going to uncover why a universe ruled by mechanical balance will always leave the human heart freezing cold.
Wow. Freezing cold.
Yeah.
So for you, listening right now, taking in this deep dive, we really want to take the research you handed us and bring it to life.
We're going to make it vivid.
We are going to travel back to the dawn of Western rational thought, and we'll break down how an ancient mind deduced the entire structure of the cosmos with zero modern technology.
Which is mind-blowing.
And ultimately, we want to see why the personal, active, loving God of Scripture is the only true anchor for your life today.
Let's start by actually setting foot in the environment where this monumental shift in human thinking happened.
Okay, set the scene for us.
We are traveling to the city of Miletus.
Miletus.
Yes, on the western coast of what we now call Turkey. This is roughly between 610 and 546 BC.
So a long, long time ago.
A very long time ago. But Miletus wasn't some quiet little village. It was a prosperous, vibrant, maritime trading center. In the ancient world, it was the ultimate intersection.
I was trying to picture this from your notes, and it feels like it would have the energy of a major modern financial hub colliding with a massive international university.
That is a brilliant way to picture it.
Because it's an Ionian city, so you have that archaic Greek culture.
Right.
But they are right next to the Lydian Empire, so there is deep political and economic influence there as well.
Exactly. And the Lydians had just recently invented coined money.
Oh, wow.
Which completely revolutionized trade. So Miletus is perfectly positioned. They have dozens of colonies spread out all around the Black Sea.
So they are rich.
They're incredibly rich. They are the terminal point for these massive Near Eastern trade routes that are bringing goods from Babylon and Egypt.
So you walk through the streets of Miletus and you are smelling spices from the east.
Yes.
You're seeing merchants unloading Egyptian linen. People are shouting and bartering in Lydian, Greek, Aramaic. It's loud.
It's loud, it's chaotic, and there's just money everywhere.
And that wealth is actually the key to this whole thing.
Really? Why is that?
Because when a city becomes that wealthy from trade, a few things happen. First, you get a leisure class.
Okay.
People actually have the time to sit and think.
Right, because they aren't just desperately trying to survive the winter.
Exactly. But second, and honestly most importantly, you have an immense amount of intellectual friction.
Intellectual friction. I like that phrase. What do you mean by it?
Well, think about it like this. If you live in an isolated little farming village, everyone believes the exact same creation myth.
Yeah, everybody's on the same page.
But in Miletus, a Greek merchant might be sitting at a tavern right next to a Babylonian trader and an Egyptian sailor.
Oh, I see.
So the Greek says, well, the world was made by Zeus. And the Babylonian says, no, it was made from the corpse of Tiamat.
Right.
And the Egyptian chimes in and says, no, you are both wrong. It emerged from the primeval waters of Nun.
So they are all just colliding. They are colliding constantly. And when you are confronted by competing, contradictory myths all day long, a brilliant mind eventually steps back and says, maybe none of these stories are literally true.
Wow.
Maybe there is an underlying mechanism to the world that we can actually observe and figure out.
That makes total sense. It's like the sheer volume of competing gods kind of cancels them all out.
Exactly.
And that brings us to our main figure today, Anaximander.
Yes, Anaximander.
Now, he was a pupil of another famous thinker in Miletus named Thales.
Right.
And Thales had already started this trend of naturalistic thinking. He famously claimed that the origin of absolutely everything was water.
Which, honestly, isn't a terrible guess.
Right. If you live in a maritime port and you see water giving life to crops and carrying ships, it makes sense.
That's a very logical first step. But Anaximander looks at his teacher's theory, and he realizes there is a massive logical flaw in it.
Okay.
And this is where we really see the absolute brilliance of Anaximander's deductive reasoning.
Let's hear it.
He says, okay, if the ultimate source of everything is one specific element, like water,
Right.
and that element is infinite, it would have destroyed its opposite a long time ago.
Hold on. Walk me through that. Why does the source have to be infinite in the first place?
Because if the source of the universe is finite, I mean, if it can run out,
Yeah.
then the universe would eventually just grind to a halt and cease to exist.
Oh, I see.
The fact that the world keeps going, that seasons keep turning year after year, it implies that whatever fuels the universe must be boundless. It can never run dry.
Got it. Okay, but if that infinite source is water, then why do we have a problem?
Right, because in the ancient Greek mind, the world is made of opposing elements. Hot and cold, wet and dry.
Okay.
Fire's hot and dry, water is cold and wet.
Right, opposites.
So Anaximander argued that if water was the infinite source of everything, its infinite wetness and infinite coldness would have completely drowned out and extinguished any heat or dryness in the entire universe.
Wow.
You cannot have a universe made of infinite water and still manage to have a campfire.
That is so simple, but so profound.
It really is. The fact that fire exists means water cannot be the ultimate boundless source.
That is just a stunning piece of logic for a guy sitting in a toga in the 6th century BC.
Truly.
He's looking around and recognizing that the observable elements of our world are in a constant state of conflict.
Yes, conflict.
So none of them can be the boss, none of them can be the infinite source, or they would rig the game and destroy the others.
Precisely. So Anaximander proposes something entirely new, something that had never been articulated before in history.
What is it?
He says the source of everything must be a substance that is completely different from the elements we experience.
Okay.
It must be eternal, invisible, and infinite. And he calls this source the apeiron.
The apeiron.
Yes, the apeiron, which literally translates to the boundless or the infinite.
Okay.
He argued that the apeiron is this unseen, eternal nature that generates all the opposites. You know, hot and cold, wet and dry.
But it isn't any of those things itself.
Exactly. It isn't wet. It isn't hot. It is the boundless substrate from which the entire universe is born and into which it will eventually dissolve.
You know, as I was reading this part of the notes you gathered, I couldn't help but think of modern theoretical physics.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we have scientists right now building these multi-billion-dollar particle accelerators, smashing atoms together.
Right, at CERN and places like that.
Yeah. They're searching for dark matter or trying to find a grand unified theory. They are essentially looking for the invisible, boundless source code of the universe.
It is the exact same human impulse, just thousands of years apart.
It is. And we have this tendency to look back at ancient people and kind of, patronize them.
Oh, we do it all the time.
We mock their science because they didn't have silicon chips or the Hubble telescope. But isn't Anaximander's leap here actually a monumental achievement in human logic?
It really is a towering achievement.
He is looking at a chaotic world and deducing that there must be an invisible order behind it.
He is using pure reason to say that finite, observable reality demands an infinite, unobservable source.
Right.
He is stripping away the capricious, moody gods of Olympus and replacing them with a predictable, rational system.
And he didn't just stop at a vague philosophical idea. He actually tried to map out the mechanics of this system.
He really went for it.
He wanted to explain how the apeiron structured the physical world, and the mechanics he deduced are wild, but also deeply fascinating when you understand how he got there.
Let's talk about his cosmology.
Yeah, let's start with the Earth itself.
This is perhaps his most brilliant deduction. Before Anaximander, every single culture believed the Earth had to rest on something.
Right.
Thales thought it floated on a cosmic ocean. Other cultures thought it rested on giant pillars or the back of a cosmic turtle.
Right, the classic turtle illustration.
But the obvious problem there is, well, what is the turtle standing on? It's just an infinite regression.
Right, if everything falls down, the Earth must be falling down unless something holds it up.
But Anaximander breaks that entire paradigm.
How so?
He envisions the Earth as a massive solid object, specifically a cylinder, like a drum or a cross-section of a stone column.
And we live on the flat top part.
Exactly, we live on the flat top. But here's the genius part. He claims the Earth is suspended in the exact center of the universe with absolutely no physical support.
No pillars.
No pillars. There is no water. It is just hanging in empty space.
But, I mean, without a concept of gravity, how on earth did he justify that? Why didn't he think it would just plummet?
Because he used a principle of spatial equilibrium.
Okay, explain that.
He argued that the universe is symmetrical. The Earth stays in place simply because it is perfectly equidistant from all the outer extremes of the universe.
Oh, wow.
Because it is in the exact center, it has no logical reason to move up, down, left, or right. The pull, or the distance, is equal in every single direction, so it just remains completely stationary.
That is just, wow. To conceptualize mathematical equilibrium as a physical force that actually holds the world in place,
Yes.
he replaced physical pillars with geometry?
Exactly. He is applying pure mathematical reason to nature.
Okay, so the Earth is a cylinder floating in the center of symmetry. What did he think was going on above us? Like, what were the stars and the sun?
His model of the heavens is where it gets a bit bizarre, but again, it's entirely mechanical.
Okay.
He believed that when the world was formed from the apeiron, a sphere of flame enclosed the air around the Earth, kind of like bark enclosing a tree.
Okay, a sphere of flame.
And eventually this sphere of fire broke apart into massive invisible wheels or rings of air.
Wait, invisible wheels of air spinning around the Earth.
Yes, and inside these hollow wheels of air is cosmic fire.
So the wheels are filled with fire.
Right. Now, the wheels themselves are opaque, so we can't see the fire inside them normally. But there are tubular breathing holes, or vents, in the wheels.
Oh, I see where this is going. So when we look up at night and see the stars, we aren't seeing objects.
No, you are looking at vents. The stars, the sun, the moon, they are just tubular breathing holes in the invisible wheels, allowing the cosmic fire inside to shine through.
That is incredible.
And he even used this to explain eclipses and the phases of the moon.
How?
An eclipse simply happens when the vent temporarily closes or gets blocked by air.
It's like looking through the peepholes of a massive cosmic furnace.
Exactly.
I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but you really have to respect the commitment to natural mechanics.
Totally.
There is no sun god driving a fiery chariot across the sky, just spinning vents of fire.
Right.
And he took this exact same naturalistic logic and applied it to biology, right? He basically proposed the first theory of evolution.
He did. He observed fossils of sea creatures that were found inland, and he noticed how moisture evaporates under the heat of the sun.
Okay.
From this, he hypothesized that all life originally emerged from the wet elements drying out.
Interesting.
He believed the first animals were encased in thorny barks or shells, living in the primordial mud. And as the earth dried, they moved on to dry land and adapted.
But human beings are the big problem here, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Because a baby turtle can hatch on a beach and immediately scurry into the ocean and survive.
Right.
But a human infant is completely helpless. We would die of exposure in a day.
And Anaximander recognized that exact problem. He looked at the extreme vulnerability of human infants and realized we could not have survived our earliest stages in the wild.
So what was his solution?
Well, he deduced that early humans must have incubated inside another species.
Okay.
He argued that human beings grew inside the bellies of giant fish-like creatures in the warm mud.
We were fish incubator babies.
Essentially, yes. We were nourished inside these giant fish creatures until we reached puberty and were finally capable of fending for ourselves.
Wow.
And at that point, the fish creatures burst open and fully formed human teenagers stepped out onto dry land.
I mean, it is a truly wild image, a teenager bursting out of a giant mudfish.
It's definitely bizarre.
But again, you see the rigorous deduction at work. He sees a problem, infant mortality, and he tries to solve it using only natural processes.
Exactly.
But of all the things we found in these sources you gave us, the part of Anaximander's worldview that really truly demands our attention is his philosophy of time and existence.
Yes.
There's a specific fragment of his writing that actually survived, and it deals with what historians call cosmic justice.
Yes, this is perhaps the most important fragment in all of pre-Socratic philosophy.
Ah, really? Why is that?
Because Anaximander wasn't just trying to explain physics. He was trying to explain the human experience of pain, decay, and death.
Ah, okay.
He observed the changing of the seasons, the brutal battle between hot and cold, wet and dry.
Right.
Summer heat encroaches and dominates, and then winter cold fights back and destroys the heat. And Anaximander described this endless cycle using a deeply judicial, legal metaphor.
Right. I remember this from the notes. The fragment says that the elements commit injustice.
Yes.
And the Greek word for that is adikia. They commit adikia against one another. And because of this injustice, they must pay justice, which is dike, and reparation, which is tidesis,
Exactly.
according to the arrangement of time.
This is a profound shift in how humanity views the universe. He is basically personifying time as an inescapable magistrate.
It's like judge.
A cosmic judge keeping a ledger. When summer heat dominates the environment, it is committing an injustice against the cold.
Because it's out of balance.
Right. It is taking up too much space. It is violating the balance. So the judge, which is time, mandates that the heat must die.
Wow.
It must dissolve to pay reparation to the cold, which then takes over in winter. And then the cold commits an injustice, and it must die to pay reparation to the spring.
And this isn't just about the weather. This applies to absolutely everything, doesn't it?
Everything. For Anaximander, the very act of existing as a distinct finite thing is an act of adikia.
That is heavy.
Just by being born, by stepping out from the boundless apeiron and taking up space, you are committing a crime of imbalance against the rest of the universe.
That is incredibly bleak. My very existence is an injustice.
Yes. And the only way to pay the fine, the only way to balance the cosmic ledger is through your eventual death and dissolution.
You just have to be wiped out.
You must be destroyed and reabsorbed into the apeiron to pay the tidesis, the reparation.
But what is so fascinating is that for an ancient person living in Miletus, this was actually meant to be comforting.
Right, which seems crazy to us.
It does. But this was pastoral care in a secular framework.
How so? Explain that.
Because think about the alternative. The alternative was the gods.
Oh, right.
If your child died of a fever or if a storm wiped out your crops, the old mythologies told you that you were being personally targeted by a petty, angry deity.
Yes.
You were being punished because you didn't sacrifice enough sheep or because God was just having a bad day. That is exhausting and terrifying.
It induces a state of constant spiritual panic. You can never do enough.
Exactly. But Anaximander comes along and says, no, the universe isn't angry with you. Zeus isn't targeting you.
Yeah.
Your loved one dying, the winter freezing the crops, it's not personal. It's just the inescapable law of cosmic balance.
It's just math.
It's just math. The universe is just balancing the books.
He is offering comfort through predictability. A very cold, mechanical comfort, but comfort nonetheless.
Right.
He is removing the malice from suffering and replacing it with necessity.
But this brings us to the ultimate question of this deep dive.
Yes, the big pivot.
If human reason can build this impressive, self-balancing, mathematically elegant system, where does it fall short?
Right.
Why does this ancient philosophy, which looks so much like our modern scientific worldview, ultimately leave the human heart completely starving?
It leaves the heart starving because a ledger cannot love you.
A ledger cannot love you.
And
Wow.
this is where we have to take this towering achievement of human reason and measure it against the ultimate authority of the biblical worldview.
Let's do it.
Because when you view Anaximander's apeiron through the lens of the Old Testament, the contrast is absolutely staggering. And you immediately see the tragic, fatal flaw in secular philosophy.
Let's pull that thread, because as believers, we can actually appreciate a lot of what Anaximander did.
Sure we can.
We agree with his fundamental deduction that the finite universe requires an eternal, infinite source. We believe that.
Completely.
But his fatal flaw was making that infinite source an impersonal, unfeeling, boundless blob of matter.
That is the great dividing line between human speculation and divine revelation.
Right.
Human reason looks at the world and deduces an infinite force. But what does the Bible give us? Look at the very first breath of Scripture in Genesis 1, verse 1.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
In Hebrew, that opens with Bereshit, which means in the beginning, and Elohim, God.
Right.
It does not open with a primeval soup. It does not open with an impersonal apeiron.
It opens with a person.
Exactly. The biblical God creates out of nothing. The theological concept is creation ex nihilo.
Ex nihilo, out of nothing.
Right. God doesn't just mechanically spin opposite elements out of an internal material substrate because the laws of physics compel him to do it.
Yeah.
He issues a sovereign decree. He speaks and light exists. He's not a blind force of necessity. He is a personal artist, an architect who creates out of supreme freedom, intention, and love.
The contrast is so sharp when you read the Psalms. If you put Anaximander's mechanical, unfeeling universe next to the poetry of the Old Testament, it's like stepping from a black and white silent film into a brilliant full-color symphony.
That is a great analogy.
Look at Psalm 104. It says, God covers himself with light as with a garment, stretching out the heavens like a tent. He sets the earth on its foundations.
Or look at the prophet Isaiah. In Isaiah chapter 40, we see a picture of sovereignty that completely shatters the idea of a mechanical cosmos.
What does Isaiah say?
Isaiah's God sits above the circle of the earth, and he brings out the starry host one by one and calls them each by name.
By name.
Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing.
He calls them each by name. That is just so beautiful to me. The heavens aren't impersonal, tubular channels of fire whistling through invisible wheels of air.
No, they are not.
They're beautifully crafted, obedient entities held in the hand of a loving master. The stars have names because they have a creator who actually knows them.
And this is exactly where the Apostle Paul provides such a brilliant diagnostic of human philosophy.
Right, in the New Testament.
Yes, in Romans chapter 1, Paul addresses this exact tendency of the human mind. He writes that what may be known about God is plain to humanity because God has made it plain to them.
Right.
From the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made.
Which is absolutely fascinating because that is exactly what Anaximander did.
It is.
He looked at what was made, he looked at the changing seasons and the structure of the earth, and he deduced eternal power and an infinite nature.
Yes.
He got the geometry right.
He got the geometry right, but he missed the person. Because Paul goes on to say in Romans 1 that despite knowing this eternal power, humanity exchanged the truth about God for a lie.
Right.
They worshipped and served created things or material principles rather than the Creator. Anaximander successfully perceived the infinite, but he substituted the living God for a boundless material substance.
There is a brilliant critique of this from Augustine of Hippo centuries later. You had this in the notes you provided.
Yes, Augustine looked back at Anaximander and the Milesian philosophers, and he put his finger right on the pulse of the problem.
What did he say?
He essentially said, you perceived the infinite material, but you entirely missed the divine mind.
The divine mind.
The Greek word for that divine intelligence is nous. Augustine said they missed the nous. They gave us a universe with a body, but no mind, and therefore no soul.
And when you miss the divine mind, you miss the heart entirely.
You do.
Let's go back to that deeply depressing idea of cosmic justice versus the biblical concept of covenant love.
Yes, this is crucial.
Because this is where the rubber meets the road for how we actually live our lives today. Anaximander's universe is ruled by a cold, calculating ledger where elements and people are constantly destroying each other to maintain balance.
Right.
You exist, which is an injustice, so you must be destroyed to pay it back.
It is a terrifying framework to live under. But the Old Testament introduces a radically different reality.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't give us a blind mechanism of retribution. It gives us biblical righteousness.
Yeah.
The Hebrew word is tzedakah.
Tzedakah.
It is a justice rooted in the moral character of a holy God, not just a mathematical balancing of hot and cold. And even more profoundly, the Bible gives us covenant love.
Covenant love.
The Hebrew word is Hesed.
Hesed. I really want us to deeply unpack that word.
We need to.
Because if there is one concept in this deep dive that fundamentally separates the biblical worldview from every secular philosophy on earth, it is Hesed.
It is arguably the most beautiful and untranslatable word in the entire Old Testament.
How would you describe it?
Hesed encompasses steadfast love, loving kindness, loyal covenant devotion, and mercy, all wrapped into one.
Wow.
It is a love that is fiercely loyal to a promise. The biblical God does not just sit back and balance a cosmic ledger by crushing things into dust.
Right.
He actively, faithfully, passionately binds himself to his people.
Think about how we see Hesed play out in the biblical narratives. It is never mechanical.
Never.
Look at the book of Ruth. Ruth is a Moabite widow. She is completely destitute. She is an outsider. By the laws of cosmic balance, by the mechanics of the ancient world, she should just fade away and be destroyed.
Right. Her existence is just a burden to the system.
But Boaz looks at her, and he extends Hesed. He redeems her. He goes out of his way, at great personal cost to himself, to bring her into his family and provide for her.
Or look at the prophet Hosea.
Oh, that's a great example.
God tells Hosea to marry a woman who continually betrays him,
Mm-hmm.
who runs away into devastating unfaithfulness. By any legal ledger, she deserves absolute destruction. But God uses Hosea's relentless pursuit of his life to demonstrate his own Hesed for Israel.
Right.
God says, essentially, you have broken the covenant, you have committed injustice, but my steadfast love for you will not let you go. I will pursue you into the desert and speak tenderly to you.
An apeiron cannot do that.
No, it cannot.
A boundless material force cannot wipe a tear from your eye. It cannot pursue you into the desert. It cannot forgive you.
Precisely. A ledger only demands payment. It never, ever offers grace.
But wait, let me push back on this a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Because we are talking about ancient philosophy from 2,500 years ago. Are modern secular people really thinking like Anaximander today?
I think they are.
Because most people aren't walking around talking about cosmic justice or elements paying reparations to each other.
They might not use Anaximander's vocabulary,
Yeah.
but the underlying framework is identical.
Really? How so?
Modern scientific materialism says that the universe is a closed system of cause and effect, driven by blind, infinite physical laws.
Right.
We are just temporary arrangements of atoms. When we die, our atoms are just reabsorbed back into the boundless universe. We have replaced the apeiron with the quantum field, but the emotional result is the exact same.
Oh, I see what you were saying.
Yeah.
People today deeply want the awe of the universe, but they want it completely stripped of moral accountability.
Yes.
You see this all the time. People will watch these incredible documentaries about deep space. They look at the James Webb Telescope images of these sprawling, majestic galaxies.
Nice. The nebulas and all of that.
And they feel this profound, almost spiritual sense of awe and smallness. But they want all that majesty without a personal God looking back at them.
They want the design without the designer. They want the feeling of worship without the obligation of obedience.
It's like finding a highly advanced, fully functioning, self-sustaining biodome in the middle of a barren desert.
Okay, I love this analogy.
You walk inside, and you marvel at the atmospheric processors, the intricate irrigation systems perfectly watering the plants, the artificial sunlight perfectly calibrated for photosynthesis.
It's a marvel.
And you are moved to tears by the beauty of the ecosystem. But then you adamantly refuse to believe that an engineer actually built it.
Right.
You just cross your arms and insist, no, the sand and the water just collided enough times over millions of years and organized themselves into these titanium walls and computer systems.
That is a brilliant way to put it.
It's a tragedy. You are praising the glass and the pipes, but you are aggressively ignoring the genius of the architect who actually laid the foundation.
And the ultimate tragedy is that when you remove the architect, you remove the purpose.
Exactly.
If we are just the result of a cosmic ledger balancing itself, if we are just an accidental byproduct of infinite matter, then there is no real hope.
No hope at all.
There's no destination. There's just an endless, repetitive cycle of birth, destruction, and reabsorption.
So, if the Old Testament reveals the personal creator who loves us with that unbreakable Hesed,
Yes.
how does the New Testament step into this picture and completely resolve the anxiety of the ancient world? How does the gospel shatter this pagan idea of a hopeless, cyclical universe?
This is where we pivot to the absolute center of human history,
Jesus.
Jesus. Because if Anaximander spent his whole life searching for the true arch, which is the Greek word for the primary principle, the ultimate origin and starting point of all reality,
Right.
what he didn't realize is that he was actually searching for Jesus Christ.
He was searching for Christ. That is a stunning thought.
He really is.
Let's dig into how the Apostle Paul explains this in Colossians chapter 1. Because when you read verses 15 through 17, Paul writes this majestic, sweeping vision of who Jesus is.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it reads almost like a direct divine answer to every philosopher who ever looked for the origin of the universe.
It is the ultimate mic drop on ancient philosophy.
Let's hear it.
Paul writes, "The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together."
In him, all things hold together. Every time I read that, it gives me chills.
It is one of the most profound statements in all of Scripture.
Yeah.
And if we look closely at the language Paul uses, and we don't need to get bogged down in Greek grammar here, we can just look at the natural flow of his words.
Right.
There is a beautiful, deeply comforting dynamic that happens in those verses.
Yes, you highlighted this in the notes, and it totally reframed how I read Colossians.
I'm glad it helped.
Explain how Paul shifts his focus when he talks about creation in the past versus how Jesus sustains us right now.
Okay, so when Paul talks about the initial creation of the universe, when he says all things were created by him, he uses a form of expression that frames the event from a distance. It's like he is stepping back in a museum to look at a grand, completed historical masterpiece. He's pointing back in time and saying, look at what Christ accomplished in the past. It is finished. It is a monumental fact of history.
Right, it's a fixed point on the timeline. He spoke, and it was done.
But then in the very next breath, when Paul says, and in him all things hold together, the language he uses radically shifts.
How does it shift?
He stops looking at the past and zooms in to describe an incredibly close, immediate, ongoing, continuous action.
Oh, wow.
The language brings the reality of Christ right in front of your face, right into this very second.
So Jesus isn't a distant watchmaker who wound up the universe, set it on a shelf, and walked away to let the gears grind themselves down.
Not at all. He is actively, intimately holding your very cells together at this exact moment.
That is just amazing.
He is continuously sustaining the gravity of the earth, the orbits of the planets, and the beating of your heart in a close, ongoing embrace. Anaximander looked at the sky and saw mechanical equilibrium. Paul looks at the cosmos and sees the scarred hands of the Savior actively sustaining every single atom.
But wait, if we believe that Jesus is actively holding every atom together right now, doesn't that open up a huge problem?
What do you mean?
What about when a cell mutates into cancer? What about when a tectonic plate shifts and causes a tsunami?
Right, the problem of Penn.
Yeah, because Anaximander's theory actually protects God from that. Anaximander says, hey, it's just the mechanical ledger balancing out. God isn't doing it.
Yes.
If Jesus is holding it all together, how do we make sense of the brokenness?
That is the deepest question of the human experience.
Yeah.
And the biblical answer is that while Christ sustains the physical existence of the universe itself is currently groaning under the weight of the fall.
Right.
The brokenness, the cancer, the natural disasters is a result of human sin fracturing the creation. We brought moral rebellion into God's good world.
So it wasn't designed to be this way.
No, it wasn't. But the profound comfort of Colossians is that even in a fractured, groaning world, it is not spinning out of control. It hasn't been abandoned to blind forces.
Yes.
The hands that hold the tectonic plates are the same hands that were pierced on the cross to eventually redeem and restore all of it.
And that completely rewrites the script on Anaximander's idea of injustice.
Completely.
Because let's go back to his bleakest thought. The idea that our finite lives are an adikia, an injustice against the infinite.
Right.
And the only way to pay the reparation is through our total destruction. The Greek word he used for that absolute ruin is thora.
Thora.
It means corruption, decay, utter dissolution.
Yes. For Anaximander, Thora is your ultimate, inescapable destiny. The universe will crush you to settle the score.
But the gospel provides such a passionate, breathtaking alternative to that, because the Bible agrees that there is an injustice.
It does.
Humanity did bring real moral injustice into the world. That's what Genesis 3 is all about. We sinned, we rebelled, we brought corruption into the system, we owe a debt.
But, and this is the turning point of the entire cosmos, God doesn't demand our absolute destruction, our phthora, to balance the scales.
Right.
He doesn't look at humanity and say, well, you committed an injustice, so I must grind you into non-existence to balance my ledger.
No.
Instead, the infinite creator became finite. Jesus Christ stepped into the cosmos, took the penalty of our injustice upon himself on the cross, and provided true redemptive reparation.
He paid the tithes, he paid the reparation.
Exactly.
Not by demanding our destruction, but by offering his own blood.
Precisely. The ledger is settled, but it is settled by grace.
Grace.
And because of the resurrection of Jesus, we are no longer trapped in Anaximander's depressing cycle.
Right, it breaks the cycle.
Think about it. Anaximander and many ancient philosophers thought worlds were just endlessly born, destroyed, and reabsorbed into a boundless void over and over forever.
Just on repeat.
No purpose, no finish line, just an endless treadmill of existence.
Living under that kind of impersonal cosmic justice is basically like living under the law of karma.
Yes, exactly.
It is utterly exhausting and terrifying. Because if you really believe that the universe is just a cold system of moral cause and effect, you know deep down that eventually the universe is going to audit your life.
Right.
It's going to find you severely lacking and crush you to settle the score. There is no grace in a boundless blob of matter. There is no forgiveness in a mathematical formula.
But living under the Hesed of Jesus means the score is already settled.
It's already paid.
In Christ, we have a linear, purposeful story. History is not a spinning wheel of doom. It is an arrow marching toward a glorious destination.
Yes.
If you read the final chapters of the Bible, Revelation 21 and 22, we see the end of the story. It isn't dissolution into a void. It's a glorified new earth.
It's a physical reality.
Yes, it is permanent harmony. It is eternal life, where God dwells directly with his people and there is no more death or mourning or crying or pain.
The old order of things, the phthora, the decay, has passed away.
Yes, the universe is not destined for dissolution. It is destined for resurrection.
This theological reality is staggering. But, we don't want this to just sit in our heads as a lofty, abstract philosophy.
No, absolutely not.
You sent us these sources not just to learn history, but to understand how to live faithfully today.
That's the goal.
How does knowing that the universe is held together by the hands of Christ change our everyday discipleship? Let's talk about real-world application.
We can start by looking at how the Apostle Paul handled this exact situation.
Okay, let's look at Paul.
Because Paul didn't just sit in a room writing theological treatises. He walked the streets of the ancient world.
Right.
If you look at Acts chapter 17, Paul is in Athens.
Right.
He is standing at the Areopagus, or Mars Hill, and he is standing face to face with Stoic and Epicurean philosophers who shared many of Anaximander's basic naturalistic ideas.
Right. They were philosophers.
They believed in rational forces, they were wrestling with the divine origin, they were highly educated.
And what is so instructive for us today is Paul's posture in that moment.
Yeah.
He doesn't roll his eyes at them. He doesn't mock their archaic science or call them idiots for not knowing the scriptures.
No, his approach is deeply respectful, but completely uncompromising on the truth.
How does he do it?
He actually uses their own human intuition to build a bridge to the gospel. He quotes their own secular poets, saying, "In him we live and move and have our being."
Wow, he uses their own stuff.
He affirms their genuine desire to seek the divine. He essentially tells them, you are absolutely right to look for the infinite source that sustains everything.
Right.
Your logic is pointing you in the right direction. But let me tell you who he actually is.
He introduces them to Jesus.
Exactly. He lovingly corrects their cold, impersonal worldview and introduces them to the historical, resurrected Jesus who will judge the world with true righteousness.
That is such a massive practical application for you listening right now.
Yes, it is.
When you go to work tomorrow, or when you're sitting in a university classroom, or even at a family dinner, You are surrounded by a culture that largely believes we are just highly evolved biological machines floating on an accidental rock in a cold, expanding universe.
Right.
That is the modern version of the apeiron. But you don't have to be intimidated by that, and you don't have to be combative or defensive. You can engage the secular mind with humility.
You can affirm the awe they feel.
Yes.
When a coworker marvels at the complexity of the human genome, or a friend is stunned by a beautiful sunset, you can say, I see your hunger for purpose. I see your awe at the universe.
Right.
Your intuition is right. There is brilliant design here. Let me introduce you to the personal creator you intuitively know is behind it.
It gives us a beautiful template for discipleship and apologetics. We aren't just trying to win arguments about intelligent design. We're trying to introduce people to the living Christ who can actually save their souls. And knowing this history also radically transforms how we read our own Bibles. I want to encourage you to open your Bible this week with entirely fresh eyes.
Absolutely. When you read Genesis or when you pray through the Psalms, you aren't just reading dusty ancient poetry written in a vacuum.
Not at all. You are reading a radical historical rebellion against the hopeless, terrifying secularism of the ancient world.
Yes, of rebellion.
When Moses wrote the book of Genesis, he was leading a people who were surrounded by massive empires that believed in chaotic, bloodthirsty gods or cold, impersonal fate.
Right.
Genesis is a bold, subversive declaration of a God who speaks, who creates out of overflowing love, who makes unbreakable covenants, and who acts directly in human history. The scriptures are the love letters of the sovereign king.
And realizing that brings us to what is perhaps the most deeply pastoral, comforting truth of this entire deep dive.
What is that?
Because we know that for a lot of Christians, your daily life doesn't feel like a perfectly balanced mathematical equation.
No, it rarely does.
It feels chaotic. Sometimes it feels like you're being torn apart by what Anaximander called the separation of opposites.
Yeah. You are dealing with severe conflict in your marriage, or you just received a terrifying medical diagnosis that you don't know how to navigate.
Yeah.
Or maybe you are just battling a quiet, relentless anxiety about your career or your children that you can't seem to shake. The world can feel incredibly turbulent. It can feel like the foundations are crumbling underneath you.
And when you feel that anxiety rising, when you feel like everything is spinning out of control, you need to remember what actually holds the universe together.
Yeah.
It is not an unfeeling blind force. It is not a cosmic ledger demanding payment.
You don't have to fear that the universe is out to get you. You don't have to worry that you are paying a penalty to time because you experienced a season of joy, and now the universe demands a season of suffering to balance the scales.
That is a lie of the enemy.
If you are in Christ, you are entirely hidden in him. You are the recipient of God's unshakable Hesed, his steadfast, fiercely loyal covenant love.
Your life is not governed by karma. It is governed by grace.
I want to leave you with this image. Imagine you are lost deep in a massive, dense forest.
Okay.
It's getting dark, you are disoriented, and you are terrified. Suddenly, a park ranger finds you.
What a relief.
Now, that ranger doesn't comfort you by handing you a topographical map, a compass, and a textbook on the migratory patterns of the local wildlife to prove that the forest has a rational ecosystem.
Right. The map doesn't stop the panic when you are lost in the dark.
Exactly. The raw data doesn't calm your heart. The ranger comforts you by grabbing your hand, looking you in the eye, and saying, I know this forest intimately. I know exactly where we are. Stay close to me, and I will personally walk you out of here.
That is beautiful.
Listen, our ultimate comfort in this chaotic life isn't knowing the mechanical physics of the universe. It isn't having a perfect scientific, grand, unified theory of everything. Our ultimate comfort is knowing the guide who is holding our hand.
That is the beautiful reality of the gospel. The creator of the cosmos, the mind that formed the galaxies, is personally holding you. And because of his covenant promise, he will never let you go.
Thank you so much for sending us this incredible stack of research and for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been amazing.
It has been such a profound journey exploring the ancient mind and seeing the superior beauty of Christ. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over today as you go back to your work, your family, and your life.
I love this.
Anaximander of Miletus spent his entire life looking up at the heavens. He strained his brilliant mind trying to figure out how the boundless infinite reality could ever connect with our small, fragile, finite world.
Yeah.
He built models, he mapped the stars, he deduced invisible wheels of fire, but he ultimately couldn't find the real answer.
He missed it.
But what if the answer isn't a mathematical theory to be discovered, but a person waiting to be known? What if the boundless, infinite creator loved you so much that he chose to become finite, wrapped himself in human flesh, and stepped directly into your broken world to bring you home?
Amen. Rest in that profound historical truth today.
Keep seeking the Lord, keep diving deeply into his word, and whatever you face this week, keep resting in his incredible, unfailing grace.